Hey y'all, we're going to talk about COVID tests today. There's too many different types, but we're going to talk about the two types of COVID tests, how we choose which test, and how we interpret the test results once we get them back. Before we talk about COVID, don't forget to share, give me a thumbs up. I'm here to make medicine make sense. Before we begin talking about the COVID test, let's briefly talk about the COVID disease. The CDC has a data tracker that I've been using since the beginning of the epidemic back in 2020. And this tool has been exceptionally helpful in determining and viewing hospitalization rates, mortality rates, and test positivity rates. One of the points I like to bring to your attention is that there is nowhere near the types of cases that we had and the severity of the cases that we had back in 2020 and 2021. According to this graph, you will note that back in 2020 and 2021, we had high degrees of mortality and hospitalizations. But over time, the severity of the disease has lessened, leading to fewer mortalities and fewer hospitalization rates. What is interesting, though, is that the positivity rate continues to be high. And that can indicate that the disease of COVID is still present, but significantly changed from how lethal and deadly it was before. Now, this also gives graphical representations on maps and allows us to compare our states with the other. I practice in Arkansas, but we're bordering Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and pretty much everywhere across the country, the disease rates are low. So let's jump into the COVID tests. There are two main types of tests. We have the antigen test, and then we have the molecular test. Now, the antigen test is known as your rapid test. It can be done at home. It can be bought over the counter. You can get results back within 15 to 20 minutes. A lot of your doctor's offices can do these tests and get results back soon. They are widely available. They're just easy to perform. The molecular test is also known as a NAT or nucleic acid amplification test. It's also known as a PCR test. That takes a little longer to perform. And your primary care doctor may not get a result for up to 3 days. In the hospital, when I order the molecular test, I can get test results back the same day, but it does take a few hours. Now, for the limitations. Your rapid test, the antigen test, it will only pick up 68 to 75% of positive COVID cases. What does that mean? That 1 out of every 4 people that have COVID will not have a positive test. Their disease can be missed. And the molecular test, which is called the gold standard, it approaches 100%, which means that a person with COVID who gets a molecular test is more likely to be positive. So you're probably wondering as doctors, why do we even choose a test that's not going to pick up all the cases as well as the gold one? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's easily available, it's rapid, and often it is the first test you want to choose if your suspicion of someone having COVID is very low. Back in the epidemic, the rapid test was the one that was easily available to hospitals, pharmacies, and clinics. And it was cheaper as well, whereas a molecular test was very difficult to come across. And now the situation has changed where you can order and buy a molecular test if you wish as a hospital, a clinic, or a pharmacy. They're just more easily found. Ultimately, a rapid or antigen test can be done as a first test. And if your test is negative, but you're still having symptoms, it may be worthy getting a test again 48 hours later. There's also data to show that if the rapid test is done closer to when the symptoms first started, it's more likely to catch a positive disease case. So for example, a person starts developing symptoms, they've been exposed to COVID, so there's a pretty high suspicion that they have COVID too, and they get tested on day 2 of having symptoms. That test is more likely to catch it, whereas if they were tested on day 10 of having symptoms, that test could possibly be negative if done too late. There have been some manufacturers that claim their tests can pick up 85 to 95% of COVID cases. I'm not really sure about that, but you may see some market that claim. Let's say you come and get tested and you have some symptoms and you think you may have COVID, but you haven't been exposed to anyone who's been diagnosed. If your test is negative and your doctor thinks that you probably don't have COVID, you may not get a second test or even need it. There's lots of other viruses out there that could be causing your symptoms. If, however, you've been exposed to someone who just recently got diagnosed with COVID and you're having symptoms too, then the probability that you have COVID is higher, and it may warrant another test if your first test is negative. Or you can go straight to the molecular test, which is more likely to pick up positive COVID. Let's talk about the molecular test. One of the limitations about these tests is that they can stay positive for up to 90 days. So what does that mean? Let's say you get diagnosed with COVID, you were sick, but your symptoms get better. And then a month later, you decide to get checked again, and your test is positive again. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have another round of COVID. We found early on in the epidemic that the virus was shed from our bodies for a very long time. And it was discussed and researched that it was probably around 90 days when the viral shedding stopped. One of my earlier cases was a woman who needed to get a colonoscopy, but her COVID test continued to be positive. She had symptoms the very first week of illness, but never developed any symptoms again. She didn't even have any GI symptoms, but she continued to have a positive test 4 months later. The data and the research shows that some people just shed virus for a longer period of time. We don't fully understand why some people shed it for longer than others, but what we do believe is that those people who are of healthy immune status are probably not infectious. They're probably not transmitting the infection to other people. Let's say your doctor thinks you have COVID, you get tested, and your test is positive. Take measures to prevent spreading it to other people and isolate yourself. And if you develop symptoms, it's very crucial that you bring that to the attention of your doctor. If you present within a certain number of days within your symptoms, then you may be eligible for antiviral treatment. Not everyone needs antiviral treatment, but if you're immune suppressed, if you're older, if you have lung disease or other chronic medical conditions, you may be eligible and need the antiviral treatment to prevent disease severity worsening. I hope y'all like this quick guide of COVID tests. If you did, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe. It helps me build my channel. Follow me for next time. I'm here to make medicine make sense.